Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.
Oscar BEVIS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. It's fight day in Peterborough, joined by Frank Smith. How are you, Frank?
Very good, mate. Looking forward to tonight, another show. Exciting, some big fights on there.
Is it going to be weird watching Ritson, Laws and all that behind closed doors without the noise? It's going to be strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's something we still need to work on. After being at Milton Keynes the other day, obviously it's being inside, it's so silent, so quiet. Whereas when we did Fight Camp, you obviously had that noise, just the natural noise from being outdoors. So we're going to work on a few bits. We're seeing some things tonight and then see what we can improve as we go into the next 4, 5, 6 weeks of shows as well. But yeah, after, like I said yesterday and at the press conference, I truly believe Ritson's crowd and Laws are probably one of the best we've got anywhere in the world.
And the bubble don't come without trouble either. A positive COVID test, Kane Baker rocking up. As always, Cash Farouk was pulled from the card, I think, earlier on in the week. It has its troubles, doesn't it, the bubble?
Yeah,
does it accentuate it as well? Like sort of height, like it's very, because it's concentrated, it's very like more prominent.
Yeah, small group of people. Cash Farouk didn't have a COVID issue. He's moved on to another show though, so we're going to announce news on him very soon. But he didn't have any COVID issues. Savannah Marshall, obviously, unfortunately, Peter Fury. I think he's feeling fine, which is good to hear. And again, we're going to work on that fight, Savannah Marshall against Hannah Rankin, to move on to another show. News on that soon. Adding Kane Baker back into the bubble. He's like the resident DJ, isn't he? And just seeing Meshek Spear, seems a good guy, and looking forward to that fight. But yeah, I think everyone being in amongst it, it's like the Big Brother house, just with a few more people.
Big Brother house. Joshua Pulev, we're going to do Q&A in a bit actually, but just quickly, Joshua Pulev was announced yesterday, back in the lines then, O2 Arena. Yeah,
it's great to be back there. Obviously, we're going to make a big push to try and get a crowd in there. We're all hopeful we can do something. Going to work with the government, DCMS, to see what can be done. But great to have him back at the O2. It feels like forever. I think his last fight was his 17th against Dominic Brazil, when he defended his IBF world title. So it's funny to see he's gone from 70, 80, 90,000 people, New York selling out MSG, Saudi selling out 17,000 people there. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially if it is behind closed doors. Ultimately, our focus is to get the fight to go ahead. We're going to push hard for crowds, but our focus has been, and with all of the fights we're doing, is that even if we can't get crowds, we've got to keep moving boxing forward and keep pushing. So, we'll push hard with the O2. They've actually got a concert the week before on December 5th for 4,700 people. So, hopefully, working with the local council there, hopefully we can get some good news as well on that front.
When you heard the sort of tier lockdown that would come into place, and things change every week, like we're never really too sure of what's going to come. It's quite unpredictable. So was it a ball ache when you heard that? Because obviously you'd have been planning this for weeks and weeks. Can we use it as a test event for boxing and whatever? Was it a ball ache when you heard about this tier system and the way London? Because we're not actually that far from December.
I think ultimately, as you said there, things are changing not just weekly but daily. So we can only work with what we have in front of us at the time. And hopefully, as I say, we can work on some sort of test event. We were looking at test events back in September, October.
This was meant to be 1 minute.
But October 4th was when we were doing it in September. Could have been a test event. So, we got to see what happens on that front. But hopefully, we can make something work. And we just got to follow the guidelines as and when they change. We've got to make sure we follow them and make sure it's as safe as possible.
As if the scramble for Joshua tickets weren't enough. Now there's going to be, I don't know, X amount of people, 500, 1,000 people. That's mad. Quickly, before the Q&A, Wilder and Fury. What do you make of this last 7 months? Like, he split with Mark Breland. There was the whole thing about the weight of the suit for his ring walk, potential bicep injury. Like, it's been a mad 7 months. And then to not have the trilogy at the end of it and the chance of Wilder to just shut all the critics up, it's quite weird.
The weight of the suit. I forgot about that one. That was an amazing story. I can't quite understand the whole situation, if I'm completely honest with you. Like, I can't see why Deontay Wilder wouldn't want to take up his opportunity to try and win back what he believes is his belt. You know, he held it for a long time, and he's got this one chance, I'm sure. I don't know the intricacies of the deal they had, but no, working in boxing, I would normally expect it to be quite watertight to have a rematch in there, but you know, it's not our business to get involved in that. I know Tyson Fury's looking for potential other opponents. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. I think the key focus is AJ's got Pulev, and then hopefully next year, all being well with everything, and AJ's got to come through the Pulev fight, we can make that big Fury fight. So let's see what happens. But I can't quite understand the whole Deontay Wilder thing personally.
Is this almost a positive from looking at it with your Joshua hat on? Because Joshua Fury is what we want to happen, what we expect to happen if Joshua comes through Pulev, and likely whoever Tyson Fury is going to fight is going to be someone who's not of the trouble that Deontay Wilder possesses. So from a Joshua Fury perspective, I suppose there's a positive twist there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, my personal view has always been either fight, whoever is the undisputed champion, and whether it was Wilder or Fury, it's the biggest fight there is. You know, whoever comes through out of all these fights, it's just the biggest fight out there. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know who. It's very difficult to find opponents, especially in heavyweight boxing. You know, you look through the top 10, who most of them AJ's beat already. It's very limited. So it's going to be interesting to see who they pick. I don't know when an announcement's due. I know they're looking at December 5th, but we'll have to see what happens. But I can imagine it's not dead in Wilder's head in terms of him taking his opportunity. That's what I think anyway. I don't know whether it's just Fury's might be frustrated and want to have his own fight now. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. And you know, if he does, it's all about the Joshua Fury train for next year.
It could be weird that someone like Deontay Wilder, one of the most explosive, exciting heavyweights of this era, could potentially be frozen out till 12, 18 months as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't take his... Again, I don't know the intricacies of it, but you're going to look at having a fight in December for both Joshua and Fury, and then probably 2 fights in 2021. So yeah, you're right. You know, you're looking at then 16, 18 months next year. Who's he going to fight?
Could you see him calling it a day?
I think he'd be mad to call it a day, personally. You know, a lot of people, as we've seen with heavyweight boxing, seem to write people off after a loss. You know, Deontay Wilder was undefeated before that fight. It was like this, man, no one wanted to go near because he knocked everyone out. And I can't see why, you lose one fight, you come back. Also, there's a lot of money in heavyweight boxing. And even if he just took one fight, one more fight, in anyone's career, if someone was to say, right, this is your last opportunity, you're going to take it. Or I think you'd take it anyway. Just like if someone said to you, didn't have a good week last week, but you got one more chance to go and earn 10, you'd go and do it, I'm sure. But, sorry, kick the camera there.
In the
My bad. I can't see him retiring, is my answer to that. So let's see what happens in the next week or two.
And obviously everyone's thrown their name in the hat, which you would expect. Like you expect every heavyweight to throw their name in the hat for Fury. Michael Hunter said he'd fight him for free. Lucas Brown come to Instagram and said he wants his shot. Otto Verleen believes he actually deserves his shot for his performance versus Tyson. Who do you want to see? I mean, there's been like the WBC names listed as well. Charles Martin back on the show.
Oscar Rivas is on there, isn't he?
Yeah, Rivas is on there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because heavyweight boxing is... anything can happen in these fights. We saw it with Povetkin against White, didn't we? But at the same time, commercially, trying to sell a fight between Tyson Fury and Oscar Rivas, for example, Oscar Rivas, who got beat by Dillian White, he's only known for, in the UK, not to boxing fans, because he's a very good boxer, but he's known in the UK now for that loss against Dillian White. So in people's minds, saying, right, he's fighting the world champion in Tyson Fury, so it's a tough sell. So I think it's difficult. I don't know how it's all going to play out personally. I think Otto Weiling could be interesting because it was a tough fight the first time around, wasn't it? But that was early on in Fury, coming back, and he's shown levels since then with the win over Wilder.
I put a tweet out and said you'd force me to do a Q&A. You hadn't. I did.
No, I did force him.
Oh, you did. Yeah, you did force me. He held me.
Do it or it was trouble.
And kicked me out of the bubble. So on the first one, it come in for like 10 seconds. Have you still got those moody white Louboutins?
Yes.
Have you?
But my missus doesn't let me wear them. Anyone who's watching an interview with me and my missus knows that she's in charge. I have no problem in saying that. She scares me. And yeah, I've got them. They sit in my wardrobe and just sit there. And I'd like to wear them. I think I look quite cool in them. She says I look like a complete moron, so I trust her fashion sense over mine.
When you're on the press conference stage, do you think about what you wear? Like, because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'd be like, shit, what we're going to wear today?
I'll be honest again. I actually rang her when I was doing, because I wasn't supposed to be doing the press conference. Eddie was going to do it, and I rang her and said, right, I'm doing this. What shall I wear? Smart or casual? T-shirt, this, that, and she's like, black smart tracksuit bottoms, Matchroom T-shirt, these trainers. I'm like, yes, okay. So I listened to her over anything else.
She's got the nuts in the relationship then.
Yeah, I have no problem in saying it. Some people are scared of saying things like that, but that's 100% true.
There's so many questions about this, and you knew people were going to ask things like this. What's the weirdest situation you've been in with Eubank Senior?
I love Eubank Senior. He's my father-in-law. I actually had quite a good laugh with him a couple of weeks ago. Saw him on his birthday, driving around with him. He is a brilliant storyteller, and I won't tell the stories because I might not be allowed to tell the stories. It might be private, but he tells the best stories. So driving around with him around Brighton, being told stories, that was good fun.
And I bet it takes him an age, because he's like the master of the pause, and he'll say something and then look into the distance and like with a glaze on his face, and then like switch and return.
He's perfected the pause.
He has.
Maybe I need to do that in press conferences. Maybe I should learn something from him.
Have you ever spoke to him about Eddie's impressions?
No.
And like what he thinks of them?
No. I try not to talk to him about work and everything. I try and keep that separate. I think it's the best way to do it.
I would say, I bet Emily's just like, boxing again, because she's grown up with a dad who's been involved in boxing. You're involved in boxing. I bet it's one of those things like Bossman's Holiday.
Boxing
when you're
consumes.
About boxing.
Yeah. But she is a massive boxing fan, Emily. You know, I because I think I'm involved in it. I think like anyone, when you're in it every day in, day out, you sort of see all sides of it, and you've got a lot going on. So she loves boxing. So it's interesting.
More of a boxing related one. The most lucrative fight after Fury Joshua.
After Fury Joshua.
Lucrative. Obviously, I know you're a businessman. From the business side, like the most lucrative. That is providing Fury
after
Joshua
Fury
is the most
Joshua.
lucrative,
Joshua Fury, sorry. Joshua Fury. I still think Joshua Wilder fight's huge. You know, just because it's a big, American heavyweight. Joshua Dillian White's a massive fight. You know, Fury Dillian White, all those fights, they're all commercially huge, I'd say. Those style fights. But I'd say probably after that fight, Joshua against Wilder is the biggest commercial fight.
Punch out. Because that's what would be advertised as a punch out, isn't it? Joshua's power, Wilder's power, Bosh.
Yeah, and I just think a big American heavyweight against a big British heavyweight. It's like we saw with Fury Wilder. But obviously, my personal view is Joshua has a bigger appeal and sort of global audience within the heavyweight, within boxing, out of all the fighters out there. So I think him against Fury is a massive fight, but him against Wilder after that fight is huge as well.
Top 3 fights you want to make in 2021?
Top 3 fights 2021. I'd love to see Joshua Buatsi against Anthony Yard.
Yeah.
I would love to see. Should have told me this question before. We got so many fighters. I want to see Josh Kelly against David Avanesian, which is one we're working on now. And I think the big one is obviously Joshua Fury, as we mentioned. You know, if we're going to include that, that's one.
Do you remember that poster that Frank put out where it was like the Matchroom side and the Queensbury side? I reckon Wembley, 11 a.m. start, just bung them all on. 30 quid, 40 quid pay-per-view, 90,000 people. Get every single one of those fights.
You sound like a boxing fan. We've. I think there's some fights on there that can definitely be made, and there's others that just don't make any sense, to be honest.
The whole Hearn and Warren link thing, it seems to be very close to them too. Have you got involved in anything to do with that at the moment? It just seems like one day Warren will walk into a restaurant, Hearn will be there, they'll have dinner and just make hundreds of fights. We know it don't work like that, but have you been involved in anything to do with that?
I mean, they haven't met. They obviously were supposed to meet. Eddie came down with COVID, didn't want to pass it on to anyone, so I had to stay in his room for 10 days. So I'm sure that meeting will be rearranged at some point. As I keep saying, they haven't met in 10 years, so there's not too much of a rush, I don't think, to get it on in the next week or two. But we'll see what happens. I'm sure if things make sense for both sides, then things can happen. If it only makes sense for one side, you know, it has to make sense for the fighters overall on each team. It can't just make sense for Frank Warren. It can't just make sense for Eddie Hearn and Matt and us. You know, it has to be for all parties. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It won't work.
How strong does Eddie take his tea, and how many sugars?
He doesn't drink tea.
Did you make tea? You did make tea for Eddie when you originally started.
Do you know what? I still make coffee and teas for people now in the office.
Yeah, that's what it does mean you're a tea boy. Like in an office environment, people make
tea
I
mean, like, I don't see the problem with it. But he likes coffee. Last coffee I made him, he told me it was fucking terrible and went, "What have you done to that?" So I just stopped making coffee. But I don't think he has any sugar in it anymore. He has milk, if that's what you're looking for.
Should you dunk your bourbon in your tea?
I'm not a Bourbon fan, if I'm honest.
You're not? That's criminal.
No. But I'm a digestive fan.
Yeah.
And 100% I dip them in tea. And I can eat a packet of digestives, like, in a day. They are sensational. It's like my one thing.
You lost a bit of weight as well, so I can imagine you're not just scranning a whole packet of digestives.
No, I can't. I'm also wearing dark colours to make me skinny, basically. And everyone keeps saying it. But, yeah, I would. Digestive biscuits I might want.
Yeah,
and milk chocolate ones as well, not dark chocolate. Either milk chocolate ones or plain digestives.
Skincare routine. I don't know who's asked it. This is like
skincare routine.
Hello magazine,
right.
But yeah.
I have temperamental skin, mainly because I used to fly a lot and travel every couple of days and got quite a hectic schedule. And yes, I have a new skincare routine. It's from acne.org. It's quite nice. It seems to be doing all right. It's better than my skin's better than it was. I get a lot of abuse on IFL TV and get called dot to dot face. But
have you been called that? I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's great. It's quite funny. But yeah, trying to be a bit healthier. I'll send you the link. I don't know if that was a sarcastic question or not, but I'll send you the link.
It's quite funny. It's like, have you seen that meme where there's like the mask and the guy crying behind it?
Yeah,
that's you. It was quite funny. There's so many questions about Eddie Hearn. Like, but I just want to.
You can ask some questions about Eddie Hearn.
I'll ask this for myself, yeah, because we were talking yesterday, and you said that people always compare you and Hearn from like the press conference aspect, but Hearn's very boxing and business, obviously, but very boxing, and you're very business and perhaps less boxing than Eddie. So the comparison's obviously always going to be there because you're up doing a press conference, but you and Eddie actually aren't similar. The only similar thing would be like you want Matchroom to do well.
Yeah, I think we have different attributes and strengths, and I think that's what every business needs. You know, I know where my strengths lie. You know, tell me to go, give me 3 weeks to go and put on an event for 100,000 people, I'll do it with my eyes shut. And that's not to be arrogant, but that's
your job,
what I do. And if I couldn't do that after 12 years, I shouldn't be here. And my focus is the day-to-day running of our operation. We got 35 staff, we got loads going on. So I'm sitting there every day. I've got, you know, I'll wake up first thing in the morning, all the way through to the end of the evening, non-stop, focusing on things. Eddie's focus is different to mine, but that's what, like I say, you need different strengths and attributes in a company. And I'm quite open, and always have been, to say, I don't know much about, he threw his jab lovely there and his footwork's really not like, and that doesn't, to me, that doesn't mean it's a sort of fault on my side. I'm just never going to come in and say to you, look at the way through his jab there, beautiful, because that's not me. I'm never going to. I don't think I'll ever change that. But I know what I know. If you ask me a question about how to run our business or what we do day to day and how we run things, I can answer you, give you an hour worth of answers. But again, it's also, I think, over time. I'm 28 years old. Eddie would have done his first big press conferences when he was 30. So, you know, I turn up here not knowing what I've got to do, and then turn up and go, right, there's the press conference. And I put pressure on myself, and, you know, because I compare myself to him. Not like I go out my way to give it, but obviously I'll watch it afterwards and go, that was fucking terrible. That was awful.
And you can't do it in silence now, because we film everything. It's on your socials
it's
as well.
always going to be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, there's no one in the room. The easiest press conference I've ever done was when we did Jacobs Canelo. Eddie did 2 of the press conferences in Mexico and I think New York, and I did the one in LA. And I was sitting there was a long lineup of us, and there's like the guy, I think it might have been Todd Grisham hosting it, and then Oscar De La Hoya here. When I get asked the question, I'm fine, I can answer it. There was 2,500 people in the room. I was fine. But then when it's like you're trying to, at the press conference, I'm sitting there, I'm asking a question, and I'm trying to listen to what they're saying, but at the same time trying to think, what am I going to ask them next? And that, to me, is, because I'm new to it, I'm sure over time it gets easier, just like my job. I've started to understand it more. But yeah, the pressure is the fact that it's always there for you to see. It's never going away. I'm always going to look back and go, oh, do you remember that press conference? That was fucking embarrassing.
So Matchroom do have media guys. They'll have people like Jamie does interviews with the fighters for website and Twitter and whatnot and YouTube. Is it got to be you doing the press conferences because like of the face of it? Like people know you, they know Eddie, so it's got to be a face doing it because there are people whose job here at Matchroom is to do interviews. So like, why is it you that gets sort of lumped with a press conference then? If it's something that you're just like, I'm not a fan of it. If you know what I mean.
I guess it comes down to the fact of I sort of am after Eddie, second in command of our business, so have to do it. But don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's more the fact of it's not my main role, if you get what I'm saying. So it's not my core focus. So I'm sure over time, the more I do it, the more relaxed I'll get. And once it becomes right, now I know every week I've got to do this. That becomes the norm to you, just like my job has become the norm to me and what I do day in day out.
And people use this as well, and I'm going to say they use like the Poundland Hearn, the Audi Hearn as well.
It's all right,
so
I don't mind that.
You're always going to get like that sort of comparison there, as if like you're a drop down version of Hearn.
Yeah,
but I know you're not trying to be him, so I know, but people will always say things like that.
But people, I think, like to say things about people, don't know? That's just social media these days. But I also think I'm quite happy doing what I do, and I've got no sort of. I don't mind being compared to him. As in, I don't mind being compared to him as bad because he's the best. He's better than anyone else who does it. So if I was getting compared to this guy who's a promoter who's useless, and they were saying I was much more useless than him, I'd have a problem with it. Because it's him, and he's perfected his skills over 10, 12, 15 years of doing it. I've got those years. So hopefully when I'm 40, doing a press conference, my heart rate isn't 175.
I saw that. You actually...
Yeah, I put it... it was like 100.
Didn't you like lose calories or something?
I was fat burning while I was doing it. But see, like, now, I'm quite chilled. And this is back in the day when I used to do these kind of interviews. I used to shit myself at those. Like, that was like 5 years ago. Yeah. So it's just progression, isn't it? But unfortunately, it's never going anywhere. So whatever you say, it's never going anywhere.
Someone said, are you going to host the Bubble Trouble? Are we leaving all that sort of not fun stuff, but that sort of extra content in Fight Camp?
No. I think we are going to announce next week our run of shows, which are all going to be at the same venue. Everything's going to be set up. We're going to do the build like we did at Fight Camp. It's not going to be Fight Camp. It's going to be that style. So we're going to revert back to new, different bits and pieces that you would have seen before. So I think from the 31st of October show, we'll see a lot of different things.
100 duck-sized horses, or one horse-sized duck?
What?
Who'd you rather fight, sorry?
Oh, who'd I rather fight?
I don't even know what sort
duck
of...
size. 100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah.
Because I sort of think you could just like be like that, like arms, legs everywhere, and just like whacking them out of the way. How big's a duck though?
I don't know. This conversation's going to make people lose brain cells. How big's a duck? I don't know. Like
ducks are quite big. Actually,
big
no, I'd rather a horse.
Oh no, one of them's a snog, marry, avoid. I think we'll leave.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
It depends who it is.
Katie Hopkins, Susan Boyle, Michelle McManus.
Okay. Avoid Katie Hopkins. She drives me a bit mental. Marry Susan Boyle. Could listen to her. And snog. Who's the other one?
Michelle McManus.
Who is Michelle McManus?
I think she's a singer.
Oh, it's not.
Shall I have a look?
Yeah.
You're going to change your mind. She's going to end up being a supermodel.
No, but I think that's... I know Katie Hopkins is annoying, so I'd avoid her. You got a picture? Yeah, Michelle, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd marry Susan Boyle because I actually quite like her voice.
Final one, how is he keeping, just in general? So I'll literally just put, how's he
How
keeping
are you?
in general?
How are you? How are you in yourself? Oh, I'm good at the minute. I'm. It's been an interesting year for everyone, hasn't it? And learnt a lot this year. I think, for me personally, this year has been good to sort of understand how lucky I am in terms of not just my life, but also what I get to do, what I get to see, and look back on the last 2, 3, 4 years where we've moved at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and look back at all the opportunities I've had, because a lot of people don't get them, and it's been good. Just all the places we get to travel to. Like I say, normally it's get off a plane, go to this place, get off another plane, go to this place. You don't really get a time to sit and think, that was quite an amazing experience. So that's been good for me, and spending some time with the family as well has been nice. But it's good to get back to it. It's good to get back up and running. We've had a long period of building boxing to where it is, and we don't want to lose that. So we've got to keep the momentum going. So with 12, 13 shows up until Christmas, it's going to be a busy period.
And I suppose, are we lucky? Because at the end of the day, right now I'm working. You're about to attend a show that you've worked on. So when you have like goals and for a year, loads of people just say, this year's a write-off, whatever. But I suppose for people who are still doing things like you are, like I am, this year ain't a write-off.
No, not at all. It's tough, but ultimately these are the things we have to get through, show perseverance, keep pushing on. And for me, my thing's always been, I think one of the areas I'm lucky in is there's not many jobs now where you get to see the end product. Like, there's not many jobs people do where you get to see that. I get to walk out and go, you know what, everything we said we'd do, look at it, it's amazing. But also go, actually, this is what we should change this week, this is what we should do next week. So I think lucky in that sense. And yeah, this year, although it's been tough, it hasn't been a write-off, and there's lots to look forward to still.
You mentioned about you walk out and you see the final product. I take it you mean like a show and 4 shows, but what's like forget the night, forget the fight itself, what's the sort of product where you've walked out and it's been the most wow, like shit, we've actually delivered here what we promised we were going to deliver?
I mean, I think many, like we were just watching a documentary on AJ about the last the two Ruiz fights. Walking out at Madison Square Gardens to a sold-out venue there, and just all the Brits over there, just the atmosphere. And then Saudi creating something that many people thought wouldn't be possible. I remember going out there about 15 times. First going out there in August, just seeing it was just like sand, and thinking, oh my God, what the work we've got to do it. So I think moments like that, all the shows we run, Fight Camp in the Garden, it makes you proud to think we created this, we did this. There's a big team of people putting all the work in, and everyone should be very proud with what they do. Brilliant.
Frank Smith. Good day today. Old Firm
Looking
day.
Forward to it.
Come on the Rangers.
Was it Rangers Celtic?
Yeah. Got boxing later, of course, headlined by Ritson and Vasquez.
Yeah. I'll kick the camera again.
It's alright.
Keep kicking the camera. Ritson Vasquez, Walter Somber, Lawrence Charlton, Marshall Rankin. Unfortunately,
Marshall Rankin.
Oh no, sorry, I've read that one. Unfortunately, that one. Ashfaq Leach, British title eliminator. Shakespeare against Baker.
Against Bubble Wrap.
Huh?
Against Bubble Wrap.
No, resident DJ in the bubble. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good. Tune in, all live, Sky Sports, 7 p.m. tonight. DAZN in the USA. Don't miss it.
Bosh.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.